Hector, great to see you.
Chris, lovely to see you.
You've got a fantastic story that obviously many people won't know. And we'll touch on that as we go through the interview, if that's okay. But leadership is obviously close to both our hearts. Who's been your inspiration in life?
I suppose breaking it down, why did I get into this game? My dad was a big part. I'll come back to him. He's probably my biggest hero, like lots of youngsters or wannabe youngsters. My first ever boss, work experience, age 16, summer holiday at the Ritz Hotel in London, mid-90s, under a man called Giles Shepherd. Sadly no longer with us, but Giles had a phenomenal career. Started out at the Dorchester as a doorman, ended up running it 20 years later. This was late 70s, proper hospitality time. Was then stolen to go to the Savoy, where everyone thought, having joined in 79, 1980, he'd be there forever and a day. But he actually went on to run the Ritz, and I was fortunate enough to go in as a whippersnapper and work predominantly on concierge, but quickly, as I'm sure you'll learn in the next half an hour or so, it was all about food and beverage for me. But Giles told me two things on day one. One, always be kind, always be nice, and always respect your youngsters as well as your elders. And more importantly, I suppose he told me that, look at this building, 230 bedrooms, I think we're in the Ritz in those days. He said, everything on the ground floor loses me money. Everything food and beverage related loses me money, and it's upstairs that makes it all work as a hotel. And I've gone on and done a few things over the years, but those sort of comments will always resonate with me, because I went on and did pubs, and pubs became restaurants, and restaurants became pubs, and then I'm now in the sort of boutique hotel game. But it's so true what Giles said back in those early days, and he just, I don't know, from the word go, and it wasn't just a summer holiday I worked for him, it was every school holiday for 3 years and 3 university holidays. And it wasn't for him, it's for his team. But I remember sort of walking through Knightsbridge after doing a big bash with him and the team, and he'd stop and he'd talk to the guys who swept the streets, who didn't even work for him, but he respected them, and he said it was all about people. So he was kind of number one, I suppose. Secondly, who recently died, and oddly we did his wake in the middle of one of the lockdown phases, was Terence Conran. So Terence, and although he wasn't a great friend, I was fortunate to meet him on a few occasions, and I take huge pride in what he sort of inspired into me. As he said, look, anyone can cook good food if you buy the most expensive ingredients, but it's how you make it look on a plate. And I think from everything that Terence Conran did in his early career of being a retailer, lots of people don't know, he was the brains behind big outfits, BHS, Mothercare, Heels, but it was taking that design creativity and then building into his restaurant world of Bendham and Bluebird in Chelsea, and then members clubs in the city and big restaurant groups in around the world. It was the design through his passion to make his food stand out that he then took into his furniture. So Giles Shepherd, Terence Conran, and then I suppose my dear father, who also died quite recently, he was an army officer for many years, and then went to work for the Queen and the royal family, and did great things there for nearly 30 years. But he was always immaculately presented. He'd be appalled that you're wearing a tie and I'm not today. But the devil was in the detail with Dad. Always 10 minutes early for everything. Nightmare going on a train with him, because you turn up to get the train before the train. But he was always there, well turned out, and always sort of, whereas Giles took time with people, he was a great teacher. He really wanted people to excel. He never wanted to be in the limelight of royal family etiquette, but he was always one step behind, and always sort of taking time to tell people how to do things in a nice manner possible, how to might improve to make tomorrow better than today. So those are sort of my three greatest mentors, I suppose. Many people I've worked with along the way that, I'm fortunate some have come on the journey with me. I've got a few people working in our business, Signet, today, who worked for me in Green's restaurant 20 odd years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's the lovely thing about your career, isn't it? Because you've done restaurants, you've run events for business, you've run events business, you've done contract catering, you've done hotels, you've done pubs and rooms. I mean, you've probably done more in different varieties than most people.
True. But I think I've only actually ever had 4 employers. I've worked for businesses, so I came out of university maybe a little too early. I didn't graduate, and it was actually my father who appeared at Newcastle University one day, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "In all honesty, not very much, Dad." He said, "Yeah, I can see that." And he didn't actually leave the university. Quick side story: he left my digs, and being an old army officer, he had a huge presence wherever he went, and he didn't leave. He went to the student union and asked to see the dean, so the headmaster of the whole university. This was at Newcastle. There's probably 8,000 students. He said, "I want to see the dean. I want to know how my son's getting on." And so the dean was summoned. That's the sort of man that Dad was. And the dean, of course, had absolutely no idea who young Hector was. But he said, "He's very good, but this probably isn't the place for him." Full of enthusiasm. But we don't, in all honesty, we don't see him a huge amount because he's always got schemes going on in nightclubs or bars. So it's sort of born into me, this hospitality heritage. I was much more interested, Chris, in trying to make one nightclub better than the other to profiteer. And yeah, that was part of that. But my father then said, my office, London, which happened to be Buckingham Palace, and I walked in, lots of people looking at me rather sheepishly and said, "Don't worry, he's not that cross with you, but he's pretty darn angry." And he sent me off to work for Simon Parker Bowles, who had Green's restaurant. And I started out being the sort of weekend manager. Simon, bless him, never really thought the restaurants in London should be open at the weekend, and certainly not at dinner time. People should be at home at dinner, or going to their clubs for dinner, sort of gents clubs rather than nightclubs. And so I managed to sort of persuade him to, over a year, it took a bit of time, that actually, Simon, I think we could turn this into a rather good restaurant in the evenings. And we did. And then the evenings became weekends. We worked out, of course, there are twice as many tourists wanting a meal at the weekend as businessmen during the week. So that took us into that field. And then that took us, Chris, from having one restaurant in London into the sporting field, into events. And so we would cater at anything from Lord's Cricket Ground to the Grand National to Cows Week. And we built it up into a nice little business. And it was very much Simon and I doing it together. National contract caterers thought that we were pretty bad news. We were standing on their patch. They were investing millions of pounds to build new grandstands at events. We were little minnows who were diluting their champagne sales. So we got gobbled up by a big national caterer. So then I had to go and work for them, I suppose. They said, "Right, you're going to run the catering on some racecourses." And I quickly worked out that if you're lucky enough to go racing, the main component behind horse racing is people who own the racehorses. It's a bit like restaurants. You don't have chefs, and there's no point having a restaurant. So if you're rich enough to have a racehorse, then you're probably wanting quite good service. So we positioned ourselves to make food better on racecourses, and they were great days, early 2000s, where provenance of food and using sustainable suppliers are just beginning to come on the map. I looked after 3 racecourses to start with, and ended up looking after the catering on 14 racecourses. So it kind of grew, and that was great fun. But I suppose in the spirit of what we're talking about, we could roll up to Royal Ascot. We could sell lots of different people, and that was people on different budgets. But it was kind of, even those days, trying to create a bit of a team culture and attitude. And make it fun for the boys, girls, men, women coming to work with us, and highlighting some those who went above and beyond, they got recognized, and those who didn't necessarily want to do what we were asking them to do, try and find them an alternative job. And that's all I've tried to do in my career to date. Is I often think that yes, you've got to be bold and take some ideas. I'll come on to that in a minute, but you've got to listen to what people actually want to aspire to. We've got this fascinating period going on at the moment where we're trying to gear up our hotel to be reopened, and 10 days today we open with guests coming back into the hotel. We've been trading our restaurant terraces under marquees, but the hotel itself has sat there empty for months and months. And we've tried to keep our team motivated through sort of learning and portals and talking on Zoom constantly, but actually putting them through NVQ courses and WSET to learn about wine, or 3 of the receptionists transpired they didn't drive, so they've gone and got their driving licenses in the last month that we put them through, because it's trying to make people learn new skills and keep fresh in what they do. I suppose we're very excited about reopening, but we're most excited because all the team who are with us at the beginning of this dreaded pandemic, or halfway through, this hotel that I currently have I'd only bought it in January last year. All the team are coming back, which is great news. That's great. To our team.
Now, success and failure come to us all in different forms. How's it impacted on you?
Me personally, I suppose failure and success can be mixed. Well, let's try and keep them separate. I've been fortunate along the way where opportunities, we've seized the opportunities. And I suppose that's our biggest success, is if you see an opportunity or a business that you think you can improve, how can we work with them? Ultimately, is that raising the capital to buy them because we think that we can improve the performance of the business? Yes, that's where I think our biggest successes have come. After the race courses, I went to work at a West London club, a country club called Hurlingham, private members club, and I was tasked with bringing all catering, events, security, operations, cleaning, all in-house, stop subbing it out to others. And it was through sort of that opportunity, it was quite a big move for a club that's been going since 1840 odd, to actually say, no, we don't need to have somebody else cater the food, we'll employ our own people to do it. And I was given that opportunity. But I think from that moment, it's led me to do, to go on and have my own businesses. But it was that opportunity that led to the biggest success. And I look at things in a different light now, because if you don't seize these chances, that ultimately the club were bold enough to do and be mad enough to let me take it on, then you're never gonna strive to go further. It's very easy to be a busy fool and do too much. It's to take those opportunities. I suppose my biggest failure is when I was younger and even more naive than I am now is not listening. You've got to listen to people, A, employees, and B, guests, because hospitality that I live and breathe. If you don't have the guests, you don't have the chefs, and you don't have the rest of the team. We have one banned word in our businesses that I take from place to place, which is we all work as a team. I don't like the word staff. That's just me, but it's taking people and the team on these adventures. And I think I can think of dozens of times where I thought, no, we're doing it this way. And has it come to bite me in the bum? Yeah, it has on one or two occasions. So it's listening. You're empowering people to do a job. And I've been a prime example of some people who have worked with me in the past I've said goodbye to. And there are 2 or 3 who are back working with me now. And they not necessarily were they in the right place at the right time, but ultimately it's if they want to bound out of bed and come and work with me rather than for me, we can find the right opportunity for them. But it's getting that balance right. Making sure that
you were a driving force behind Building the Dragon for a number of years as well, and that was a great success story, wasn't it?
It was great. It was great. Yeah, we took one gastro pub in deepest, darkest Cookham, which is very close to Windsor, and ended up having 7 that we sold 8 years later. And it was, I suppose it was a lot of the team, but we had a lot of SOPs, the way that the business was to be run and perform, and the way we answered the phone had to be the same, and upselling of side dishes and making of the bed. But it was a sort of model that we built it up over a number of years to ultimately sell it on behalf of our shareholders. And I suppose that was my first opportunity into entrepreneurial fare, with another one of my sort of great inspirers, the chairman of that business, a gentleman called Joel Cadbury, who I'm honoured to call a great friend, and he was my chairman and partner. And yeah, it was a lot of hard work, rolling him out time and time again, but it was a great success. And we rode the time, Chris. We were opportunistic, but actually successful in our timing.
So how have you changed over the years? What's been your greatest learning?
I suppose having a go, twofold. One, I go back to my failures of listening to people. I've got heads of departments in different businesses that I'm involved with. That you've got to listen. You've got to make sure that they're accountable to do their jobs, and you've got to be able to hold them up when things may not have gone as well as they have, but let them have a go and let them have a chance at trying to aspire and doing things differently. This world of tech and development. In our latest hotel, we've spent lockdown 1 developing an app, so you can now check in and order drinks, and now sit on our terrace, and through GPS it finds you on the terrace, and it's not quite drones coming to you, but probably in 2 years' time it will be. And that certainly wasn't my idea or vision or venture, but I'm really grateful to somebody who put that idea forward, and that was actually a bar manager who said, "Have you thought about this?" And if that's a bit of tech that we can roll out to other budding entrepreneurial hospitality businesses, awesome. Not necessarily to profit from it, but it's skill set to develop into other businesses. I've grown in listening to people, and I've grown in probably. The easy thing is to say, to look at new opportunities in a greater vein. I like to sort of get a system in place that works and then scale it if it works. If it doesn't, hold on to it and prove it, and then try and pass it on.
So what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Be patient. We've got 3 grads coming into this business, Signet, very soon. They have been with us, but it's you forget the 18-year-old self, how quickly you move, and how much you think you know when you don't know it at all.
True, that's true.
We're all culprits of that even now. But think, listen, learn is sort of my strategy behind it.
And what's your aspiration now?
I suppose our aspiration currently. So what I did January 2020, 60 days before the pandemic hit the UK, I bought a boutique hotel in Hampton Court called the Mitre, 36 bedroom. It's been a hotel for over 400 years. Believe it or not, it was overflow accommodation in Henry VIII era. And we bought it, and it was really, really tired. It was tracking an average sort of selling rate on the rooms. We call them ADR of 60 quid. But it's a beautiful place, and lots of rich and famous came here over the years. And I don't know, when I was doing my due diligence on it, I just thought, why doesn't this work? And it had been owned by the same family for a number of years, so it's become tired and stale. And that market really excites me. And what I've signed up to do is to try and do a hotel a year for the next 6 years. We're on track. We're doing some exciting stuff at the moment. And we're optimistic now, more so than we were a couple of months ago, that we're going to have a really good year, 2021. And if that can keep rolling and countryside sites coming on board, it'll be taking the principles from the mitre to build into bigger and better.
Final question, and how's the pandemic impacted on you?
It's been a horror show. let's not lie on that. It's been a horror show, but I actually, we took it as an opportunity as ever. So I bought the mitre January 2020, and I was going to spend 2 years doing a rolling refurb, and in typical fashion, we're right on the River Thames here, and we were going to bring all the building material in on a barge every morning, all the clean stuff, and every evening the barge was going to do it close, and we were going to shut the rooms in blocks of 4. Every 2 months we'd roll on to the next 4 rooms. And actually, pandemic hitting, you know, as hoteliers or hospitality businesses, it'll be the only chance that we get to pause in our lifestyle as business managers. And so, you know, thousands of colleagues and those I know in the industry have sort of said that this is a chance to pause, breathe, and re-engage. And I think that's really true. It's been, you know, it's been for the bank managers, it's been tough, and for our investors and for my family and anyone, it's been a real long slog, and awful, just ripping up 20 and 50 pound notes by the thousand every day. But you know, we believe that we'll come out better and stronger. You know, why sell 10 main courses on a menu when actually only 6 really sell? And if you change those 6 more frequently, you're going to end up supporting more farmers, because you'll be buying more of their product, therefore buying a fresher product at a better rate to sell it to the consumer at a better rate. So I think the smart will get smarter, and we're certainly not smart, but it's a chance to breathe and reflect and build a management team to go forwards with. We've done all sorts of daft things, from picking elderflowers to you know, all doing 10,000 steps a day in the business, and you know, doing things and having competitions in the background. But you know, we're minnows. We've got 110 people working in this business compared to many others, but it's allowed us to keep fresh and stay strong and strategize. But it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be a long road out of this. But again, I go back to sort of my main point is we've got to look after the guests. Money can do anything, but it can't build businesses. It's people within the businesses, and that's why we're always looking for fresh talent to come and get involved, and then if they've got a great vision and we can put it in practice, then we can support them.
That's great. So final question, it always seems like, listening to you, you love being in the minnow. You love being in the minnow, taking on the big ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I worked for the National Caterer, my word, you learn how to count. And I remember talking to you, Chris, probably 15 years ago when you were kindly helping me on my path and trajectory then. You know, you learn to count and keep your mouth shut when that, but that was, you know, a different period slightly, but keep your mouth shut unless you've got a great idea and you've backed up your vision and presenting your budgets and payroll forecasts or whatever it might be. They were very, very important days to me. I'm fortunate to absolutely adore what I do and work with a team of very special, talented people. But I think, you know, if I ever get to more than 8 hotels, when you next see me, bash me on the head, because that's not what we're trying to do. But tomorrow, next year might bring different ideas. You never know.
Oh, look, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Hector. Thank you for your time today.
Cool. Really. Thank you.
And good luck with the opening.
Thank you. Thanks.